Hello world.
Hello.
Eric just asked me to say hello world. I didn't mean that for you.
not just hamming it up.
Just me thinking you're the world. You know what? There's someone who's been in the waiting room since like 7:30 or 5:30 your time. Great. Eric hears us, which means the stream is working.
Great. I look really close up here.
Totally fine. Every time I'm on video, I feel like my video is really grainy. I'm going to send everyone the grid. I don't understand exactly what is going on with these holds, but I'll just explain that to the team on the email. We've got one participant in the waiting room.
Need to shift on myself.
Tell Rocky, we've only got one person in the room right now.
Still early, huh?
It's a little early, yeah. I think at 7:55, that's when I'll reach out to him. right, 3 people in the waiting room. I'm gonna go ahead and let them in and tell them to hang on mute. Cool. Hey there, thank you guys so much for joining us. We're gonna wait about 5 minutes to get started. So if you want to hang on mute and turn off your video for now, you're welcome to, or just hang out on mute and we'll have everyone turn on video and get going at the top of the hour. Thanks. Hey Laura, welcome. We are going to get started in just a second, probably about 5 minutes from now, so not really a second, I apologize. But if you don't mind just hanging out on mute when we get going, I'll have everyone turn on their cameras and we'll get started. Thanks. Hey Laura, I think you missed some of what I was saying as you were joining audio, but we're gonna get started in 5 minutes, so feel free to hang out on mute till then.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Margaret, I don't think we're expecting anyone else at this point, so I say we go ahead and get going.
All right, that sounds great. Hey, everyone. If you don't mind, will everyone turn on your videos if you have the capability? It's just better for us to have a good conversation here. Thanks so much. So yeah, in the way of intros, I'm Margaret, and this is my colleague Fabi right here, who's blonde. We work with Vladimir Jones. So we're a research and advertising company. And a lot of what we do is go all over the US, sometimes via Zoom, and chat with people about all kinds of different topics, product, services, sometimes dentistry. So as you all know, we'll be talking about careers in dentistry, a little bit about school for dentistry today. And today you guys are the experts. We don't know that much about this topic, so you cannot go into too much detail. We love when you can kind of fill in acronyms and kind of help us with that shorthand kind of stuff. Yeah, because you guys could probably talk over our heads about this topic. And also, sometimes there's, agreement, disagreement, and that's all fine. That's really helpful to actually helping us understand the big picture here. So no worries there. And we want to let you know, we do record these sessions, and that's just so we can take detailed notes, get an accurate report. It's not so we can release it on YouTube or make a TikTok or do anything weird like that. So no worries there. It's just so we can quote you accurately. And also be aware, sometimes these conversations can have a funny cadence. We may be checking the clock to make sure we're getting through everything on time. Might be checking notes or bouncing between you to make sure everyone's covered. So, it's not personal. It's just to make sure we get through lots of content and get you out the door, and are respectful of your time. So with all of that, does anyone have any questions off the bat? Nods. Okay, cool. Let's kick off just getting a quick introduction in. I'd love to have each of you say your name, your school that you went to or are going to currently. If you have a current position, tell us what that is, and also what got you into dentistry in the first place. So Laura, you're first on my screen, so I'll jump to you.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name's Laura. I went to University of the Pacific in San Francisco for dental school. And I wanted to get into dentistry because it was a good mix of practice and also talking to people, feeling like you've helped people. And it just didn't seem like an isolating career where you're behind the screen all day.
Nice. All right, how about you, Cameron?
Hey everybody, I'm Cameron. Currently a third-year dental student at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, UMKC. Easygoing guy. Had some family in dentistry. My grandfather was an orthodontist. Really like the application of science and business that kind of meshed together. Yeah.
Cool. How about you, Brittany?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So I went to Concord Career College in San Diego, and I made a career switch to becoming a dental hygienist. I used to be a PE teacher, and my husband's in the military, and it was really hard to travel around as a PE teacher versus dental hygiene was pretty easy to get a job quick. So that's why I made the switch, and I've been practicing for about a year and a half now. Like right as the pandemic was kicking off, I was graduating.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, congrats on the career shift. How about you, Jeanette? Oh, I'm not able to hear you. Oh, classic AirPod issue. Happens to me once a week.
No.
Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I am a fourth year at Indiana University, and I wanted to do something in the healthcare field and thought dentistry I would give dentistry a try.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. So, I mean, we kind of have teased this a little bit, but what stands out to you about the lifestyle being a dentist? Did that sort of define what got you there versus somewhere else? And everyone can sort of jump in at this point.
For
mean,
me, oh, go ahead, Cameron.
okay. For me, I mean, I saw how my grandfather was living. My aunt's a dentist. My cousin's an orthodontist. Actually graduated from Indiana School of Ortho, so little connection there, Jeanette. But I don't know, it just seemed like a really healthy, family-focused, family-centered lifestyle that seems fun and get to meet and help a lot of people.
Do you all agree?
Yeah.
Any different sort of elements that appealed or?
Definitely more financial stability for my family, for sure.
Sure. All right, so I understand dental school tends to be a 4-year career path. You might have had a little different experience, Brittany. During that time, sort of where do you start looking for a job in dentistry? Like, how does that ramp up?
I had a job lined up before I graduated. So I knew where I was going to be and working, and but a lot of my classmates, had decided that they were going to temp, which I think is great when you're fresh out of school because you can jump around and see how different offices work, and you can work out your kinks and get your nerves out and just, get that experience before you land somewhere.
Did you have something, Laura?
Oh no, I just dropped something. But as far as the lifestyle, I'd say the hours are great too. You're never really on call. You have pretty stable hours every day, so that unpredictability, lack of sporadic schedule is definitely really appealing too.
Sure. Yeah, and Jeanette, you said like year 4 is sort of where you start really looking for a job. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Okay. Has that been the experience that the rest of you who have sort of gone through that period had?
I'm still a third year, so I've got year and a half on my hands, but I might be a little proactive and kind of reaching out there and kind of inquiring about some place. I'm nothing serious, but yeah.
Okay, good. We like proactive. So what would you say is probably like the key factor in making a decision? I know some of you have covered some really important things to you, but like what would be the key factor in pursuing a job?
For me,
Location.
location, yeah.
Hmm. What did you say, Jeanette?
Same as Laura.
Okay, location.
Location,
And
the potential for success, both financially and as a dentist. And then for me, at least, I can't speak for everyone else because still in school, but the opportunity to expand and continue learning and expand my skills right off the bat.
Hmm. Interesting.
So
Location, huh?
Building off of what Cameron said, I wanted to add the autonomy to be able to do our own procedures or kind of treatment planning our own decisions. Part of that.
Autonomy. I almost said autonomy also.
Mhm.
Mm. I want to come back to the autonomy thing. Brittany, do you have like a one thing that defined what you wanted to pursue?
What do you mean?
Sorry,
by
I backtracking to the last question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what would be like the one thing that would define?
Yeah, so for
call?
me, I mean, location was key. But I actually lived in a van in San Diego and worked and traveled and jumped around a bunch of different offices, and it was so cool. So location wasn't really a big factor to me. I'm actually relocating to Colorado right now, and I just interviewed on Zoom for a position, and it's really hard because they only have 2 dental offices in this area, and they just had an opening for like the first time in 20 years. So this is my first time ever in this career having to negotiate pay, because it's changing. You guys are going to see when you're out there working, like the pay is just skyrocketing now because of COVID. And people getting out of the game. Ton of people are retiring early and leaving, which is great because you guys are going to be young dentists graduating and you're going to be able to just slide right in, buy these practices that people are just like, get me out of here. But it's just a different market right now. So yeah, for me, I mean, I would like to say location, but at the end of the day, I want to make what I've been making. So
Sure. So money is really
and
key.
also a team is huge. And working in a dental office, like if there's like one sour person, like they could just bring down the whole team. And so having a solid team, you know, I would take less pay to have a solid team. So making my day more enjoyable working there. So that's another big factor.
Sure. So I want to jump back to the autonomy thing. Do you feel like there are certain career paths within dentistry that you identify as having more potential for autonomy?
Owning your own practice, I think, is, at least with my friends, kind of the general consensus of you're your own boss, you have the most autonomy. Flip side of that, and I don't want to say like blanket statement, you know, this is the case each and every time, but there is kind of, I think, a stigma about corporate dentistry that, you know, depending on where you end up and depending on several different factors, you might have someone breathing down your neck and telling you, you know, you have to do this or meet certain quotas, something like that. And so there is kind of the allure or appeal of, you know, being your own boss, being the owner.
Sure. So are there corporate dentistry situations where you might have a little bit of autonomy, or are you saying that there are some where you might be kind of in a leadership role, but somewhere you can't?
I feel like what Brittany said with having a good team and support staff, like a manager who does their position and doesn't kind of try to do other positions, kind of like that, and where everyone knows their roles and works well in the team, builds on that, helps influence that autonomy where we would feel comfortable to work in that kind of environment, if that makes sense.
Anything to?
I think for dentistry with dentists, you know, it's hard for me to speak because I'm a hygienist here. I'm the only one, but it seems like there's different routes where you guys can go, and there's just so many different things, like even the way that you guys can get paid. Like you can be paid a flat rate every day. You could be salary. You could be like a percentage off of your production, off of your procedures. And so like that's the same with your work environment too. I imagine you could go work corporate, you could own your own, you could partner with somebody who may be retiring soon and then you slide in. There's just like so many realms that you could do. I mean, you could be a military dentist, you could, I mean, the list goes on. So it's kind of hard to say for them.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Well, for those of you who have either gone through the process of finding a job in dentistry or are sort of looking to do so, how do you think that process will go? You know, do you reach out and find opportunities? Do you like do corporate dentistry orgs come and present to you? How does that go? What does that process look like?
Yeah, so I did Job Hunt about a year prior and now as well. And I think it's a combination. I think the offers with the most potential to me are usually just within my network. So maybe someone I know who's worked for this person or this DSO or this location specifically, or also there's definitely reaching out to certain recruiters in certain areas, and then just talking to any opportunities. And I think just seeing the different strengths and weaknesses of each one does make me more prepared and gives me a better idea of what I want at my job.
How about the other people here? Any other sort of experiences?
So in my experience, we have like during lunch, we have lunch and learns where they come and kind of talk about their companies And then afterwards, we'll have like a meet and greet at night where they'll we'll go to like a local restaurant or brewery, and then we kind of just get to know the recruiters there. We get their information, and then I've had several recruiters got my phone contact information, and we just kind of interviewed from there.
Okay. I see you
That's
nodding
like
over
whole
there.
process with me as well.
Okay. So it seems like a lot more opportunities come to you.
So far.
Okay.
But
Okay,
a
that's a
lot
good-
of the corporations, I feel like, or DSOs come to you, I friend of a friend, or, through the grapevine, private practice looking to sell, they're not reaching out en masse to my class at least.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. What's the environment like sort of with amid your cohort? Are people feeling like competitive, or do people like to share information, or what does that sort of feel like?
In regards to what?
Sharing.
Job search.
I feel like most people are pretty open to it. I can ask any of my friends and be like, are you interested in corporate dentistry, XYZ corporation? And yes, no, maybe, I feel very open about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, same thing in my boat too. So a lot of people in my class, even on our class Facebook page and Facebook pages from years before, they're always posting opportunities like, oh, this office, we're looking for someone part-time, or this office, we're looking for someone full-time. And then as far as corporate offices too, if I know a classmate who's worked for them and they've had good experiences, then they're definitely always willing to share information. I usually don't feel like people in my network have been holding back information or opportunities.
How do professors or your, the staff at your school kind of come into that?
For me, they didn't really. A lot of them have had pretty academic careers. So some of them are a little more out of touch with certain things, but there are faculty members and professors who do have their own practices. I think if the time and place is right, they would suggest, and they would make, like some of them have looked over contracts and everything, and they would offer their advice. But I think because there's so many dental students and maybe not enough, positions the faculty know about, or vice versa, they're not always the most helpful source.
Has that
I-
tried with- oh, go on.
Sorry, I actually feel kind of a different way about that. I have a few faculty members that I feel like, I don't want to say majority, but a significant portion of my faculty members have either worked in private practice and come back and retired. And so they're kind of, I sit down there, I have a handful that I really like, and kind of will pick their brains about, what did you do for XYZ procedure or whatever it may be, and then kind of talk to them a little bit about the, real world application of dentistry, because it's significantly different than what we do in school. And then similar to what you said about presenting contracts to faculty members, I have one or two faculty members that have repeatedly looked at people's contracts, not mine because I don't have one yet, but willing to help you along that front and just kind of coach you, if you will.
Okay. So I've heard you bring up DSOs, or like corporate dentistry, a bit. What do all of you know about that? Will you just sort of fill in a little bit about that for us?
Yeah, for me, I'd say, more on the corporate side. You're not always working for a dentist specifically who owns the practice. There's maybe more bureaucracy within that system. So the actual person who's owning the practice may or may not be someone definitely more of the group practice type model, where it's not always just you. It's going to be maybe multiple providers. And also, I'd say maybe just a little less autonomy in certain ways, because maybe the larger company, the dental service organization has more of a say in like the way they do things, or you can only order with these companies, or you can only take, or like we always take these insurances. They just have some more rules with it.
What DSOs or corporate dentistry do you know? We just throw out some companies.
Yeah, Western, Aspen, Heartlands, Whole Smiles, Rodeo, Familia, long
Dental
list.
Dreams, Enhance, Spring Dental, Dental Depot.
Okay, am I accurate too in sort of lumping corporate with DSO?
I think so.
Is there something similar? Like I've also heard like franchise model. Would you see that as being something similar or a little different?
Yeah, in my personal opinion, I kind of see DSO as being kind of a middleman between true corporate and true private practice. Again, it was mentioned like the partnership model. I see that being more of the typical DSO that I see or have been exposed to. But again, hard for me to tell because I haven't been really exposed to what they do, more than them just buying me dinner than explaining what they do, like on a superficial level.
Sure. Not a bad relationship, honestly. But
It has its perks.
How about the rest of you? Any sort of different impressions or like different perceptions or understandings of that kind of corporate DSO franchise, where they fall?
I'd say as far as DSO, I feel like it's a little more broad in general. So there could be like smaller DSOs where they don't have like venture capitalists backing them. They don't have like private equity funding them. There's still maybe, just more small scale in general, but there's still an organization and a group with multiple practices. And there's definitely still some leadership and some organization putting them together. But versus corporate, I think they're definitely more profits driven, not always dentist owns. They have other people investing into it that might not necessarily have like the interests of healthcare in mind. So I guess I get more of that vibe with corporate.
I agree with that.
Anything to add, Jeanette?
I agree with her.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, broadly, your associations, good, bad, middling.
For me, it's in the middle because I think there could be good opportunities at all those, whichever practice you end up in. And it, as far as just the perspective of a general dentist, it really depends on what you want. So if you want that kinds of workplace and environment and maybe the structure of a large company, then absolutely there are really good benefits to being with a practice like that. There are also the certain things that give them a bad reputation, but I think like every job, it comes with different pros and cons. And as long as you're aware of what you're getting into, it's not always a bad thing.
I agree with that.
Can I ask a follow-up question to you guys on that? I'm just curious if the reputation exists, if any of you could put your finger on where you think that reputation comes from. Who did you hear about DSOs from or corporate dentistry that gave you this perspective?
Personal experiences from the people who has gotten me into dentistry field, like just like my mentors, they kind of just talked about their own experiences.
The dentist. Okay.
Older students, faculty members, and then also I would agree with, mentor dentists or people I know in the field. I've just either seen bad things, bad things, or just kind of heard of less than ideal conditions.
Yeah, I agree with Cameron. It's usually older dentists or just people maybe 2-3 decades removed from us. Yeah, I think all the people within our generation graduating in the past 10 years, it's just part of the landscape.
My director does say good things about it only, though. He's currently working in one. He says that one of the positive things about it is getting to work with other specialties in the office. Like he gets to work closely with a periodontist there every day. So there's that. Like it's not all bad. We hear both sides of the field of corporate.
Yeah, that's interesting. It sounds like maybe younger people in the field maybe have a more open mind to it, huh? Does that trend sound
Yeah.
accurate to you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more that we just haven't, experienced anything firsthand, and so we don't want to, seem closed-minded or something like that.
Right. Fair. Interesting. Well, I want to pull back a little bit, back to sort of the job search experience for all of you. Are DSOs sort of on the table for you as you're looking for careers?
Yeah, if it's the right fit. One thing that I'm really looking for out of school is kind of the mentorship. Kind of, I want, in my ideal world, I would like 2 to 5 years right out of school where I, pick up my speed, expand my capabilities of what I can do as a dentist. Because I kind of want to be like a jack of all trades, just be good at everything that I do. And then I'd also love to learn the business side of dentistry. And once I feel comfortable that I kind of have at least a rudimentary understanding of that, I'd like to go out and try and purchase my own practice and do it myself.
Yeah, I did work for a DSO before. I would say it's definitely on the table. The reason I left is not related to like the DSO per se, but I'd say just things like in the practice. But I think there are a lot of benefits to DSOs too, kind of like what Cameron was talking about. I think you really get a good sense of business because they track all the information they can. Like they have metrics, they have numbers, and I think they are very transparent with that too. Whereas like a small private practice owned by like one dentist who is practicing and doing procedures all day, they don't necessarily have the time to do all of that and to analyze all that. What was brought up before about mentorship is definitely really important too. So a lot of the DSOs I've seen, they usually have like 2 or 3 dentists, and there's always someone to ask for help with. Also, the ability to work with specialists too. So then they might have a specialist permanently there or rotating there. And if you are seeing them on a regular basis, I think it's really helpful to be able to ask them questions and ask for advice. So I would definitely consider working for a DSO. Again, definitely not out of the question. It's just a matter of opportunity and location.
Sure. Jeanette?
I like to agree again with Laura and Cameron. It's kind of
Yeah.
what I mentioned before with the location, the opportunity to work with other specialists and the mentorship, having somebody to have time there, and the comparison that Laura brought up with having a owner that only has so much time with the paperwork and then what they have to do. So
Yeah. I don't know, this might be kind of weird, but like, do you have associations with certain companies being more like positive than others, or like certain ones that would, fit your values or what you're looking for better?
oh, I heard good thing about Heartland Dental because they provide a lot of their CE courses to dentists and they really invest in their dentists. So that's one positive things about that's attracting my class.
I've heard that as well. But then everything that I've heard, aside from just kind of generally good things about Heartland. Everything else I've heard has been more of like a isolated incident or issue with one location of a corporate branch, not necessarily the company as a whole.
Hmm. And by that, you mean everything else you've heard about like other DSOs seems anecdotal, or you mean about that particular one?
Like I've just one of the fourth years that I'm decent friends with, a corporate office took him out and showed him the office that they would have him working in. It was like South Side Chicago, and just kind of a bad area, like carjackings in the middle of the day in the parking lot, and just not somewhere that he wanted to be, not somewhere that he would consider. And I mean, hearing what he had to say and just kind of what he saw, like I wouldn't do that either personally.
Hmm.
So
Okay, so
that might be a bit extreme, but instances like that.
sure. So you feel like there are some one-offs that may be isolated incidents?
Right. Yes. Maybe less overarching of the specific company or DSO specifically, and more just, I would not work in these conditions or at this specific location, something like that.
Hmm. So it seems like there's quite a bit of variety, even within, DSO to DSO. Like each one has variety. Hmm.
Yes.
Are there ones that seem kind of sweepingly bad? Do they have bad reputations? Do any come to mind?
I will say that I think the ones with specific values that publicize their values, I feel like do generally have a good reputation in my mind. So for instance, I know in Texas, there's more of like a state DSO, but they have like very clear-cut values for their employees and how they want to treat patients. And they really focus on that company culture. And I feel like with that ethos kind of just projected from top down to, in general, they want people to follow those company values. But for other DSOs at like lunch and learns and interviewing processes, I don't always feel like that is a major part of their actual company values, and I haven't heard anything about them. So for instance, I'd say like everyone kind of throws Western Dental, under the bus, but like I don't know anything about their company values per se, and if they have like a specific way they want to treat all patients, or something that they really stand by.
That's Western Dental?
Western Dental, yeah.
Okay. You said
Yeah.
you had.
Sorry, Margaret, I don't mean to interrupt you guys. I'm just curious with what you're saying, Laura, because Cameron also mentioned getting to know on a surface level these companies. I forget the exact phrase you use. I literally wrote it down because I thought it was very interesting. The choice, you said you got to know them on a superficial level. And Laura, I feel like you're also talking about what seems to be brands and companies that are not telling you about things on a really deep level. Those values feel like they're one layer deeper for you. What does that superficial level mean to you guys? And do you feel that all these DSOs are trying to tell you a lot of similar things?
You can go first.
Okay. I feel like a lot of the DSOs and a lot of the luncheon, just the corporate DSOs, they all kind of beat around the same bush of like, wow, your life is going to be so great. You're going to make all this money. We want you to come work for us because, we're going to pay you really well. We're going to have, let you do everything your way. It's going to be, this magical dreamland. And then, I understand like they're selling themselves, which you have to do. I mean, that's how this works to an extent. I mean, that's how it is. So the superficial level of like understanding is kind of just that, you have a handful of presenters, buying lunch or taking, 70 people, 100 people out to dinner and explaining who they are and making everything sound magical when, you know, I haven't stepped foot in your facilities. I don't really even know you other than the, you know, 30 minutes that you're talking to me. It's all just kind of, you know, sure, it sounds great, but how much do I actually trust you? How much do I believe in what you're actually saying? And that's just, I guess, maybe one of the unfortunate aspects of all this is, you know, you can't take all of us to your, you know, extremely nice facilities in, you know, Tulsa, Oklahoma, because that's 4 hours away from me. So that's what I mean by like the superficial aspect, at least.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
definitely when you're just doing lunch and learns and you're just seeing ads on LinkedIn or Monster, it's true you really only get a superficial interaction with them. But I suppose it's also the general vibe and reputation that also trickles down too. Like if patients have great things to say about those offices, then you know, it must be a really positive place to be working. But I suppose if all the reputation from patients, from staff members, in general is not bad, that also carries a lot of weight. And even if it was just from a surface level interaction from someone.
When you say patients, Laura, that's really interesting. Do you feel like you're looking at patient reviews, or are you interacting with patients and asking their candid perspective on the office when you see them?
I do that like with people I meet too, and then if they hear I'm a dentist and we talk about it, then I ask where they go. It's the conversation usually progresses like, oh, how do you like that office? How are they treating you? How are they treating your family members? So I always think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, thoughtful line of questioning. Love it. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to digress, Margaret.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, in what other context would you have the opportunity to talk to patients like that? Is it just sort of while you're working with them, or are there other channels?
Yeah, definitely when I'm working too. I think I'm more chatty with certain patients for sure. And I like to hear about their experiences with other dentists, like prior to coming to this office. Where did they go and how they liked it and everything. But it's true, it's kind of hard to get a good perspective sometimes, especially with online reviews, because there are some like dental offices I know that really reward employees on like giving Google reviews. So it's like, oh, if your office gets like 1,000 Google reviews, then like your whole office gets a bonus or something. So those reviews are skewed a lot, I could imagine. It's like all positive. And also on the other hand, on Yelp, you can have like a 1-star from someone who just had a really bad day and decided to like take it out, you know, on like this other dental office or something. So it's hard to gauge, I think, actual perspective from the reviews.
Yeah, it sounds like word of mouth is what could be relied upon. Is that something that you all agree with? It feels like I've heard it from you respectively. Okay.
Yeah.
Are there channels for word of mouth communication? I don't know, like forums or things that we might not know about because we're not in the dental world? Yeah.
Yeah.
If there are, I don't use them.
For me, it's a lot of Facebook groups. So they have specific dental Facebook groups for like dental practice owners, for like new graduates, for all kinds of things in the dental industry. And then there's also like regional dental groups. So maybe like there's a looking for jobs in Los Angeles, California kind of dental group too. And then even on Reddit, there's like a subreddit for dentists. There's a lot, yeah. Yeah, there's Student Doctor Network. That's more of like the common forum that like pre-dental students and pre-doc students use. Sometimes there's some information on that too.
You ever see some of those like corporate dentistry companies showing up there? Does that feel authentic?
No.
They don't show up?
They don't show up, and I don't feel like it's authentic too, because I feel like usually they come with, there's strings attached. But I feel like if it's mostly providers or people who are working at these offices on there who talk, and those feel more authentic because it's coming from someone who's working at a practice on a day-to-day basis, not really someone who's, in charge of recruiting or in charge of marketing or vice versa.
Sure. Okay. Well, that was, deep detail. We promised deep detail, and there we are. I want to jump back really quickly to the lunch and learns. The group has talked a lot about how it feels kind of like templated. And I'm curious, do you have a sense of whether that's because it is literally within that slot that has been set aside for lunch and learns, or is it because their pitches don't seem compelling?
I've definitely had my share of like compelling lunch and learns, and some of them are financial institutions that say like, hey, we acknowledge that you guys are going to be graduating here in the next few years and making a lot of money, like let us help you manage your money, or let me give you a quick shakedown on student debt and loan forgiveness. And so there's kind of varying levels of interest, at least in my humble opinion, and I'm a sucker for free lunch, so I go to a lot of them. But there are some lunch and learns I find more compelling, more interesting, just across the board of what the presenters are saying and how they talk to us. But there is, a certain template, I think, as far as like what people say, just because they have, such a short window of time to address all of us, and there's really too many people to address, individually, one-on-one. So.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I had some thoughts on that too. I do feel like a lot of lunch and learns, there are effective ones, like Cameron said, but I think a lot of them, particularly from big offices, are ineffective because they are only in that one block of time during lunch. Like when Jeanette mentioned the happy hours or something after school, I feel like there's more time to interact. And also it's even better when there's actually someone who's in our footsteps we want to be in. Like if there's actual practicing dentists there, then I think that's really helpful to actually learn about their path and what they did to get there. And I think a lot of the time, like dental students don't even know what to ask either, or like they're not sure what they should be learning from this person or this recruiter. Like what can I get out of this? And they're a little clueless about that. But I feel like if you have actual really good engaging like doctors who go to lunch and learns or the happy hours afterwards, and they actually take the time to talk to students, then everyone wins. They get the most out of it.
I second that.
I agree too. I like to say I'm one of those students who don't really know, like I'm in the beginning of my job search, so I don't really know what to look for, what to ask for, and just going through all of that and going through a job search, they sound like they offer sort of the same thing. So when I learn most, it's just a word of mouth of what people's personal experience after the first year of graduating and what they figured, what they started looking for. So that's how I started figuring out what I should look for. But in terms of those presentations, it sounds very cookie cutter.
I mean, if you were running one of these orgs, what would you throw in there to like pique people's interest? I know, Laura, you had talked about just pointing to what makes you different or like the values of the org. But I mean, is there anything that comes to your mind? Like if you could do that for your, if you were running an org?
I like what she said about having that someone who's been there in our shoes, like having a dentist that's like a recent graduate that tells us their experience there. So what Laura mentioned.
The last two lunch and learns that I found really effective and worthwhile did that as well, where they had, relatively recent grad come and talk to us, and then just really be as transparent as possible. you know, it's a taboo subject, but talk to us about money. Talk to us about, you know, what we should expect to make, you know, right out of school, what you expect us to do, you know. One of the um, DSOs that came and talked to me most recently, I thought was really worthwhile and engaging. You know, they broke it down and said our new hires straight out of dental school, they average doing, you know, 130 crowns a month or whatever the time frame may be, but like broke it down into like this is what people are doing, you know, this is how many procedures they're seeing, this is how many patients they're seeing, just transparency and hopefully honesty.
You did mention a little earlier, I have to say, Cameron, sometimes people are doing the same pitch and they say, oh, like you're going to make so much money, blah, blah, blah. So like, what would make that different?
I mean, I think there is like an expectation for all of us that, you know, there's a threshold that we're going to hit as far as, you know, salary, whether it's a true salary, a percentage of production, collections, whatever it may be. I mean, and obviously that varies or is going to vary from office to office depending on, you know, policies and whatnot. But I think just like having a understanding beyond just like what am I getting paid, like what am I generating, you know, for like the office in total, how much money am I bringing into the office, kind of just like the accounting, finance, business aspects of dentistry beyond beyond just a dollar sign.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I know when I was in dental school, a lot of those things were pretty confusing to me. Like I didn't know specifically how much 130 crowns, you know, would monetarily translate to. But now that's something like I'm always asking about, and that's what I want to know as someone who's been out too. I think those are pretty common things you want to know, like how much the last dentist working there was making, how many new patients there are on a given day, just things like that.
All right. Well, I'd love to dig in a little deeper on a particular company. Have you guys heard of Comfort Dental?
Mhm.
You guys know that one? Quick show of hands. Yes. You don't know Comfort Dental? Okay. So for those of you guys who do know Comfort Dental, you know, what do you know about it? What are the connotations?
I have a fairly neutral connotation. I think they came and talked to us pretty recently, like this past semester, lunch and learn. Yeah, nothing drastically bad or good.
Did you have something to add, Laura?
No, I'd say about the same thing. I don't have any direct interaction with them. No specific reputation comes to mind. Just that I know they exist.
Okay. So no real specific perspective on like where they fit into that, what we were talking about like corporate model versus DSO.
I know that they're a corporate entity. I don't know off the top of my head any of their like, actually, no, I do know there's a location pretty close to my dental school. And I think actually one or two dental students in the class above me kind of moonlight there right now, kind of working as kind of expanded function assistants, you know, doing sealants, prophies, stuff like that on the weekends when they're not in class.
Okay. So like a little bit of that word of mouth.
Mhm.
They joined you for a lunch and learn. Have you seen a lunch and learn of theirs, Laura?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No.
Sorry?
Oh, I don't think they're in the state I was going to school in.
Okay. So I'm just gonna kind of jump in with like a little exercise thing. We're gonna pretend like we're in a lunch and learn or like a recruiting session. And I'm gonna give like 3 different pitches, and I'd love for you to sort of take note of which ones you respond to, and which ones sort of rub you the wrong way. So the first pitch: at Comfort Dental, you have the opportunity to own and operate your own office, but you'll also have the support of corporate to help manage the business and communications. So that's number 1. Number 2, the opportunity for variety, choice, and autonomy is great at Comfort Dental. It allows you to practice a full spectrum of dentistry services in any field that interests you. There are no corporate quotas that you'll need to fulfill. And number 3 is the goal of Comfort Dental is to treat underserved populations. The patients that most dentists ignore are the patients we are happy to help. So any initial reactions, ones that you gravitate towards?
The third option kind of feels like the feel good option to me, but the second option, as a, someone being recruited, is what stands out the most to me. The autonomy and then no corporate quotas kind of being the highlight features of that.
I like option 1, kind of for the same reasons too, but I'd say the fact that they say they have an ownership path in some capacity might have suggested autonomy to me. But basically, I think we kind of wanted the same thing: autonomy and maybe a little bit more freedom of choice.
How about you, Jeanette?
For me, 1 and 2 stuck out more, like equivalently.
Okay. Did any sort of ring false or, I don't know, rub you the wrong way?
3.
3 did? Tell me more.
I don't have any experience. I don't have personal experience in Comfort Dental, so I wouldn't know.
Well, I know that's like what the exercise is, though. It's like, this is all it is.
Mhm.
Like, I'm just curious. Yeah, like why does that seem true or false,
For number 3, one reason I didn't like it, I know it's kind of superficial in a way, but if they're focusing on like needier, the patients in need, I'm wondering if it's going to be a practice that focuses on like specific types of insurance. So maybe like state insurance policies they have, or if it's like HMO insurance plans. And then it makes me think that I'm doing a lot of procedures, but I'm not getting paid for very much for them. So it makes me feel like it's a very volume driven practice, not necessarily like a fee for service practice where I do less procedures, but get paid more.
Valid point.
Does that kind of ring for you, Jeanette?
Yeah, she knows how to put it into words.
Hey. Dream team. So I don't know, does that feel, so that doesn't sound like it's aligned with your goals for your careers. Will some of you speak to that a little bit more? Like doing a lot of work doesn't speak to it, or what about that doesn't quite work for you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us have student loans. We are also trying to make money too, and as efficiently as we can, which would be great. So it's not a bad thing. Like, I know there's also parts of us that really want to like help and contribute, but I suppose it's just, if you're going into that type of dentistry, it's really hard on you too. Like it's exhausting to talk to all these people and treat all these people, and I feel like I don't always get a personal interaction with them. So it's just a different model, I suppose. And if it were something I were looking for and I wanted to really focus on helping people in need in like option 3, for instance, I'd probably consider a job in a community health clinic or like just community dentistry, maybe not necessarily like a DSO.
Exactly that. It has, while it tugs at the heartstrings, like, yes, we want to help people. And I think you talk to like any given dental student and they'll say that, either in their, personal statement or whatever it may be, they talked about wanting to help people, helping the younger and weaker, less fortunate, whatever it may be. I think that exists in all of us at some level. But if I wanted to help people in needs or underserved areas, like Laura said, I'd go work community health or a public health center or something along those lines, rather than joining a corporate entity that was trying to do that. And the other thing that the statement almost kind of implies is, the underserved people, in dental school, we're serving a lot of underserved people just because our fees are generally cheaper. And while it may not be any fault of any one person, a lot of our patients are kind of unreliable right now, and I'm not sure that I personally want to deal with that in my professional career. And just I would like something a little more professional, I guess.
Any other thoughts on that one?
I guess there's just like a balance between having to help or like us wanting to help people, but also with like, having someone coming to the appointments and also being able to pay for procedures, because like as we also have things in tuition and loans to pay for. So
Yeah, definitely a balance.
Sure. So I guess how would you rank income in your decision making importance? So if you're looking for a career, how high do you rank income then? Like really high, moderate, sort of in between?
pretty high.
I'm pretty money driven personally. Coming out of school, I've told myself that I value the mentorship aspect of it. Like I said, trying to pick up my speed, learn the business side of things, expand my capabilities as a dentist. And so I value the mentor aspect a little bit more than the monetary aspect right out of school. But long term, I'm trying to take care of myself, I'm trying to take care of my family and my community. So definitely high.
For me, I'd say income is pretty important, but it's not the most important thing for me at this stage. Still being a new dentist, I feel like there's a lot to learn, and you kind of, like Cameron said, you want that mentorship to help you get to that next step. But I think as I get into the next decade of practice, and I know that my time being a dentist is limited and I don't want to practice forever, I know at some point I'm going to try and hit higher and higher incomes with every position, and possibly, ownership too. So at this point, it's not the most critical factor, but it's still high up there.
Okay, makes sense. Just thinking back for a second to the 3 pitches we talked about, did any of those stick out as being, something that would stand out in a lunch and learn, or anything like that?
I personally rank the pitches from best to worst as 2, 1, 3. The autonomy still is ringing in my brain, and the quotas, just because I've heard a lot about corporate, having certain quotas that you have to meet, or, you might fall under quota 1 month and then meet your quota the next month, but still be under what you were expected to produce for a year or whatever given time frame. So quotas is a good buzzword.
Yeah, I agree too. Like I know some friends who have gotten laid off with like no notice because they didn't meet their quota for a few months. Um, so I feel like putting that in the marketing definitely makes people feel more comfortable to even give it a chance.
Is that something you would expect to hear from a corporate dentistry company?
I expect corporate dentistry companies to have standards and to tell you what they are. I expect them to share the averages of other people in my level and location areas and like how much they're making and whether I compare or don't compare to them. But I don't always think that's the first reason someone should be hired or fired.
Hmm. Any last thoughts on that?
I have a quick question to you guys, and this could be any of you three could answer. I feel that there's a lot of gravitating towards the notion of autonomy, but there is also a lot of talk of mentorship. So how do you guys see both of those working together? The guidance of someone, but also wanting to do it yourself or having the control.
So how I see that is being able to having those resources to seek guidance and just kind of suggestions, but having our own autonomy to make the decision on what we think is the best approach. And sometimes we could agree, most of the time we probably will, but just being able to allow us to feel like we made that decision on that's going to be the best approach for the patient, um, is what I see as being able to have autonomy with mentorship.
Okay, it's helpful. Thank you.
I see the autonomy aspect more of a, and kind of since we were talking about a freedom from quotas. I don't want someone telling me like, oh, I expect, this much of you, each week, and potentially leading to like some questionable ethics, over diagnosing, over treating, stuff like that. The mentorship that I'm seeking is more of like I'm presented a case. I, would say, I think I would treat this tooth, this way. What do you think about it? Or how can I do this better, more efficiently? Kind of something along that kind of frame of reference.
Okay, no, that's helpful.
Yeah, I completely agree with that too. Because with mentorship, there are always going to be questions we have and maybe procedures and things we don't know how to do, but like our more senior dentists would know how to do and they can guide me on that. But again, it's more of like the pressure and I suppose more administrative pressure to like treatment plan this a certain way or to change like this filling to a crown, things like that per se, which feels a little more like pressure and less like autonomy than just the talking to another dentist about like what would we do in this case or that case.
Cool. Thank you guys. Yeah, it's helpful.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I know we've kind of come up to the top of the hour here. Do we have anything else? Fabi?
Yes, I wanted to ask, and this is going back a little bit to what you guys talked about earlier. You talked a little bit about team culture and the importance that plays. And so I'm curious what positive team culture looks like for you guys.
For me, positive team culture really revolves on celebrating successes and achievements in the office. I feel like a big thing I liked at my last place of work is if we like reached our goals or we did really well that month, then the assistants got a bonus and then like the hygienists got bonuses and that was all celebrated and there was like incentive in that. But I've heard of like other places, they're not really big on celebrating those successes with people. So even if everyone did really well or an assistant didn't or an assistant really helped recruit a lot of people to Invisalign or orthodontic cases, and the office made a lot of money. Maybe that office didn't celebrate those things and they didn't get any incentives. And I think that really brings down the morale. So another place I worked too, they had so much turnover. And that was the worst thing about it. Like every other time there'd be a new assistant or a new staff member who's undergoing training and just really struggling to pick up from where someone else had left behind. So I think if you have like positive culture, everyone feels like they're important and contributing to a team goal and that their work is getting recognized, then there's just more longevity and people stay more and everyone's happy.
How much of everything you've described to me, which was really helpful, do you think is true or positive team culture? How much positive team culture do you think there is in DSOs or corporate dentistry?
I feel like I've seen both ends of the extreme. I have seen the last place I worked, I think they were good middle grounds, but the office manager took a little bit of a step back in terms of like arguments people got into. So that was something that affected it. But I think there are places and with really good morale and culture, but I think that's also really driven by office managers and regional managers in DSOs. So if you have really good people in those positions, then it does, you really get that sense of it in the office.
Oh, thank you. I realize I like peppered you, Laura, so thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. I don't think we have any other questions, Margaret, or nothing else that I wrote down. Maybe just to wrap it up, I'm curious. I feel like you guys talked a lot about quotas, and I'm just, because everyone was gravitating towards the spiel, the sort of elevator pitch that was referencing that. Does that feel unexpected? Is that something that you just have never heard from a corporate entity? Recognizing Comfort Dental doesn't quite fit that corporate mold, but I'm curious why you guys were so, it came up a lot.
I think the stigma about quotas is that it puts pressure on you as the dentist to either do or find treatment that may not exist, because you don't know what's coming in the front door. I mean, I can't, force someone to come in and say, all right, I'm doing this definitive treatment to you, whether you want it or not. As a person to person, we're all different and unique, and treatment for one is not going to be the same as treatment for somebody else.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on quotas? Why that felt so like something worth calling out?
Yeah, like Cameron said, it definitely is a stigma. And I think demystifying that is definitely good because the stigma is still there. I wouldn't say I've never heard it before. I've seen other places, present that too, and say that they're not involved in the treatment planning. They're not really involved in like, your plan as a dentist. So seeing that is good, but it's not the first time it's been presented.
Okay, cool. Thanks. All right. I have one last question that might up level you out of, I know we got really deep in the weeds here, but I'd be curious, coming back to this idea of mentorship, maybe what's the best, sounds like you guys all have referenced a couple of, whether it's peers or people who have been in the industry for a while, best piece of advice you've gotten from a mentor. And it might be a practicing dentist or a professor, faculty, anyone on any topic.
One of the most noteworthy things that my cousin told me about dental school is just be aggressive. You are practicing now under someone else's license. I mean, not that I'm trying to throw someone under the bus, but like be aggressive, be adventurous, try new stuff now so that you can learn what you like, what you don't like, how to do things before you're practicing on your own license and having to potentially pay for mistakes. I mean, now is like, I don't like admitting that I'm actively trying to make mistakes, but now is the time to make mistakes if you're going to make one.
Okay.
Yeah, continuing on that thought, I think it's just not saying no to opportunities, even if they make you uncomfortable and might seem like not your general comfort zone. But I think like in dental school, there were opportunities I wish I took more advantage of that, it's over. Like you don't get those opportunities again once you graduate. So yeah, definitely just being open-minded to whatever opportunity presents itself.
Cool.
I was told the same thing, to just if you're gonna make any mistakes, to make it now, to learn how to do damage control and how others would resolve that. Obviously, don't do it on purpose, but if it was to happen too, you'd be thankful to have it happen now.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Margaret, anything else to want to wrap us up?
No, I think I'm in good shape, and we're just 5 minutes before our time, so we can let everyone get off for the evening. Thank you so much for your time tonight. We really appreciate you. And Fieldwork will be in contact just to make sure you get paid for your time. Yeah, thanks for the conversation, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
Have
you.
a great night. Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Record.